March 19, 1997. A helicopter hums over the dense Indonesian jungle. Minutes later, one of its passengers is gone. His name was Michael de Guzman, the Filipino geologist at the center of Bre-X Minerals, the Canadian company that claimed to have found the largest gold deposit in history. Days later, his body was reported found in the jungle. Or at least, a body. But here is the mystery. Was it suicide? Was he pushed? Or did de Guzman vanish with millions, leaving the rest of the world holding the bag? The fall of de Guzman was not just a tragedy. It was the spark that set off one of the biggest financial scandals in Canadian history. A scandal that would rock markets, ruin lives, and leave behind questions that still have no clear answers. Welcome to True North Files. This is the story of Michael de Guzman, the man at the heart of Bre-X. To understand why de Guzman's death still haunts the Bre-X scandal, you have to know who he was. Michael de Guzman was born in the Philippines. In his youth he was a talented basketball player. He dreamed of playing for the national team, until a gang attack shattered his knee. For the rest of his life, he walked with a limp. What de Guzman lacked in height, he made up for with personality. He was gregarious, loved karaoke, partied hard, and had a sincereness to him. He chain-smoked, drank heavily, and thrived in the rough and tumble lifestyle of remote mining camps. His personal life was just as messy. He had a wife and 6 kids back in the Philippines, plus 3 other wives scattered across Asia, all kept secret from each other. A womanizer, a polygamist, and somehow, a beloved companion to colleagues who described him as both fun and ruthless. Professionally, he was a veteran of Southeast Asia's mines. He was seen as brilliant but reckless. For years, his theories about finding gold in fault lines and volcanic zones were dismissed. But when Bre-X needed a geologist in the jungle, de Guzman got the call. And suddenly, his work would change the course of mining history. Bre-X Minerals was a tiny penny stock based out of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, a city known more for oil and cattle than for mining empires. In the early 90s, its founder, David Walsh, was broke and desperate. He teamed with John Felderhoff, a Dutch-Canadian prospector who had chased big opportunities in Papua New Guinea. Together, they staked claims in Basang, a remote stretch of Indonesian jungle. At first, the results were modest. Then de Guzman's samples started showing incredible gold content. The numbers skyrocketed, tens of millions of ounces, then 70, then a staggering 200 million ounces. Bre-X stock shot from pennies to nearly $300 a share. Its market cap topped $6 billion. Retirees, farmers, pension funds, everyday Canadians thought they had struck it rich. Politicians praised Bre-X as a national success. At the height of the frenzy, Bre-X was nicknamed the stock of the century. Coffee shops buzzed with stories of neighbors suddenly flush with paper wealth. Even the Prime Minister hinted at Bre-X as a symbol of Canada's resource power. It was a modern-day gold rush, and the world was watching. De Guzman himself became a kind of rock star. At the Prospectors and Developers Association conference at Toronto's Royal York Hotel in early 1997, de Guzman presented Basang as the find of the century. He soaked up applause, and spent his off-hours bragging at strip clubs about his sudden wealth. He was now a multimillionaire on paper. De Guzman was at the peak of his career, and his life. But behind the cheers and champagne, cracks were forming. Freeport-McMoRan, a mining giant, was quietly checking the deposit, and they were not finding much at all. Here is the ugly truth. The gold was not in the ground, it was in the samples. De Guzman salted them. In mining, salting means planting gold into ore samples, so that tests show high values that do not actually exist underground. He spent $61,000 buying gold dust from local panners, shaved flex-off jewelry, and mixed it into crushed rock before sending it to labs. Every report looked spectacular, because de Guzman made it spectacular. A few geologists noticed the results looked too perfect. But banks, brokers, and investors were blinded by greed. Nobody wanted to question the miracle. Salting samples was not a brand new scam. Small-scale mining swindles had pulled it off before. But never on this scale. And without today's strict reporting standards, labs had little reason to doubt what they were given. It was deception at its most brazen, and it worked. In March 1997, the story began to unravel. Freeport's test showed Basong was barren. De Guzman was ordered back to Indonesia. On the long flight from Toronto, de Guzman joked with colleagues, still upbeat. He stopped in Singapore for a medical checkup. Malaria and hepatitis B were gnawing at him, then checked into a hotel in Balikpapan with Bre-X metallurgist Rudy Vega. That night, the two went drinking at a karaoke bar. De Guzman belted out his favorite song, My Way by Frank Sinatra, and laughed the night away. Hardly the picture of a man ready to kill himself. The next morning, hungover, de Guzman faxed a memo to Felderhof. It laid out plans for meetings with Indonesia's Ministry of Mines, updates on financials, and even a note about seeing a specialist for his liver. I'll update you at the end of the month. De Guzman signed off. Hours later, he boarded an Alouette helicopter. His colleague, Rudy Vega, got off at Samarinda. De Guzman stayed on board. Mid-flight, the pilot heard a loud pop. A door swung open. De Guzman was gone. De Guzman's body was found 4 days later in the jungle, badly decomposed, missing hands and feet, apparently scavenged by wild animals. Fingerprints were inconclusive. Dental records were not checked. DNA was never done. The body was cremated quickly. Suspiciously quickly. Many believed the hasty cremation was a cover-up. And there was more. Indonesia's ruling Suharto family had financial stakes in Basong. With billions of dollars at risk, the timing of de Guzman's death seemed almost too convenient. And then there was the rumor that de Guzman had been carrying a bag with $300,000 cash that day. It was never found. The fall of Michael de Guzman was not just a tragedy, it was the moment the Bre-X fairy tale turned into a thriller. So what really happened to Michael de Guzman? Theory 1. Suicide. The official line. Sick. Depressed. Burdened by guilt. De Guzman jumped. But his last days do not fit that picture, joking with friends, planning meetings, singing karaoke. Theory 2. Murder. With billions of dollars on the line and powerful interests at risk, some believe he was silenced. The rushed cremation, the inconclusive ID, and the missing cash all feed suspicion. Theory 3. Escape. The most tantalizing theory. One of his widows later claimed she received $25,000 in a money order from Brazil, supposedly from de Guzman. No proof was ever produced, but it is just enough to keep the whispers alive. With millions in Bre-X stock profits, Could de Guzman have staged it all and walked away into a new life? His tangled personal life only added fuel. Each family, each business partner, saw a different motive. Some accepted suicide as truth. Others swore de Guzman had escaped. A few believed darker forces pulled the strings. The lack of a definitive body keeps the conspiracy alive. Suicide, murder, escape. Every version sounds plausible, and to this day, none are proven. With de Guzman gone, the fraud collapsed. Freeport confirmed Busan was worthless. Bre-X stock imploded, wiping out $6 billion. David Walsh died in 1998 in the Bahamas. John Felderhoff faced insider trading charges but was acquitted years later. No one was ever convicted. The RCMP dropped their investigation in 1999 after combing through 600,000 documents, saying there was not enough evidence. Canada's reputation took a global hit. To restore credibility, the country introduced NI 43101, a rule forcing independent verification of all mineral claims. It became a global model for mining standards, preventing scams of this scale from ever happening again. But decades later, what sticks is not the legal fallout or the regulations. It is the haunting image of Michael de Guzman, the karaoke singing, chain-smoking geologist who carried the fraud on his shoulders, and then fell, or disappeared, into mystery. Bre-X was the gold mine that never was, a $6 billion illusion that shook investors and scarred Canada's reputation. But the story endures because of one man, Michael de Guzman. Was he a mastermind? A scapegoat? Or a ghost, living under another name, far from the jungle? We may never know. You have been listening to True North Files, uncovering the stories Canada can't forget. Thank you, and we will see you in the next file.